what we've seen over the last several years is drift in the U.S.-Russian relationship. There are very real differences between the United States and Russia.
A moment that speaks volumes. President Obama at a nuclear security summit in South Korea today. What exactly is he talking about when referring and speaking with the Russian President Dmitry Medvedev? Listen carefully on this. So the two world leaders talking about missile defense and a shield in Eastern Europe, a long time.
On Monday, Mr. Obama met with Russian President Vladimir Putin to discuss several issues, including the uprising in Syria. Nora O'Donnell is traveling with the president in Los Cabos, Mexico. Nora, what do we know about Putin and Obama?
Well, good morning. It was their first face-to-face meeting since Vladimir Putin regained power, and the meeting lasted nearly 2 hours. As one top advisor to the president said, they started talking about Syria, and they didn't want to stop talking about Syria. But it was so interesting in their remarks after their meeting, the two men barely looked at each other. You could just feel sort of the tension between them, and the body language really represented how far apart the two leaders remain on the issue of Syria.
What we've seen over the last several years is drift in the U.S.-Russian relationship. There are very real differences between the United States and Russia.
I frankly think that crisis initiation is really tough. And it's very hard for me to see how the United States president can get us to war with Iran. Which leads me to conclude that if, in fact, compromise is not coming, that the traditional way of America gets to war is what would be best for U.S. interests. Some people might think that Mr. Roosevelt wanted to get us into World War II, as David mentioned. You may recall we had to wait for Pearl Harbor. Some people might think Mr. Wilson wanted to get us into World War I. You may recall he had to wait for the Lusitania episode. Some people might think that Mr. Johnson wanted to send troops to Vietnam. You may recall we had to wait for the Gulf of Tonkin episode. We didn't go to war with Spain until the until the Maine exploded. And may I point out that Mr. Lincoln did not feel he could call out the Federal Army until Fort Sumter was attacked, which is why he ordered the commander at Fort Sumter to do exactly that thing which the South Carolinians had said would cause an attack. So if, in fact, the Iranians aren't going to compromise, it would be best if somebody else started the war.
Conversation with hospital staff that shrapnel was the clear cause of at least 2 of the 5 deaths. Injured are being treated here too, not all of them, but some of them. And a community here now very concerned at the degree to which the violence in Syria is beginning to spill over into Turkey.
The deployment of Patriot anti-missile batteries by NATO members on Turkey's border with Syria will only harm Turkey's security. That's according to Iran's defense minister, in a reference to the Patriot missile batteries, which will be supplied by the U.S., Germany, and the Netherlands. NATO members are to deploy the Patriot missiles in response to Turkey's demand to protect its territory against possible attacks from Syria. But many believe that the move is likely to be the cause of a new world war.
Tension between them, and the body language really represented how far apart the two leaders
On February 15th, asteroid 2012 DA14 will pass within 22,000 miles of Earth, less than a tenth of the distance to the Moon. Although this 45-meter rock has a 0% chance of hitting us, near-Earth asteroids in general raise a number of interesting scientific questions. What makes the difference between a near miss and an impact?